Hi everyone, my name is Scott and I'm a runner. Welcome to the Run Scotty Run YouTube channel. In this video series, I wanted to discuss with you one of the most challenging yet rewarding periods of my life. Through the fall of 2007 through to the spring of 2008, I decided to run a marathon a month for 8 consecutive months. So 8 marathons in total in the space of 8 months. So anyway, it is quite a story. I hope maybe that you'll find it interesting and educational, informative. But anyway, this is my story of how at age 45, I turned 46 during the challenge with a fairly demanding full-time job. I was able to accomplish my goal and run a marathon a month for 8 consecutive months. So here's my story. So I'm going to break this whole thing probably down into about 5 videos just to keep the videos from being too long. I could sit here and ramble on for an hour plus, but you'd probably be asleep in about 5 minutes. So this first one, I'm going to talk about why I decided to take this challenge on. And then also the kind of the preparation and planning, the logistics part of it, which may not be too exciting for some people. Then in the second video, I'm going to talk about my training. There are not really any books at the time that I could pick up and, what would told me how to run 8 marathons in 8 months. And then I'm going to do, I think the third video, I'll talk about the first 4 marathons. And the second video, the last 4 marathons. And then the 5th video will be kind of a wrap-up, lessons learned, takeaways from the whole challenge, the whole experience. I do have some fairly detailed notes here, so I'm going to be looking down and referring to those and checking things off. I just, because it is a pretty involved story, I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. So, first of all, why? Well, like many other runners, I read this book by Dean Karnazes, The Ultra Marathon Man. This was his first book, and I became very inspired. I got back into running. I'd been kind of in a real low spot for quite a while. Put on quite a bit of weight. I was way out of shape. At the time I had a lot of stresses going on in my life, and I was not in the greatest of places. So fortunately, I read his book, and it motivated me to get disciplined and back into my running. So as luck would have it, in 2006, Dean decided to do 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days, which he wrote this book with the help of some other folks, which recounted his lessons learned on accomplishing that feat. So after the first few, they decided to, the people were showing up. Essentially how it worked quickly was he did run, I think maybe 6 or 8 marathons the day that they were actually happening, like maybe a Saturday or a Sunday. Most of the other marathons that he ran, for example, the one he ran in Oklahoma, which I ran with him, he came to town and had arranged it with the race directors, and they got local support from police and everything else. And he ran the course, but it wasn't an official. Like the day I ran this marathon with him in Oklahoma, it was actually a Monday. So here's my bib number, number 23. It was the 23rd out of 50 marathons. He was kind enough to autograph it for me afterwards. State of Oklahoma there in the back. It was actually super cool. I think you had to pay $100 to run with him, but I mean the bag of goodies that they gave us was worth well over $200. You got a copy of his book, some custom sole insoles, water bottle. It was incredible the amount of stuff that they gave us. So it certainly was well worth more than that. And the other thing was, Dean was so gracious. There was 44 people that ran with him that day in Tulsa. I should say we ran the Route 66 marathon in Tulsa, Oklahoma, before it was actually even an official marathon. It didn't start, the inaugural year of the marathon was actually that November. So we were running a course of a marathon that hadn't even really existed yet. So that was that was really cool. But he was very, very gracious. And in the first couple of hours, he went around and made a point of talking to everyone. So you can imagine my motivation, my stoke level was like off the charts. Getting to talk to this guy, and he was so gracious and so kind. So anyway, not to keep patting myself on the back or bragging about anything, but I'm going to link down below in a video. There was a movie put out by a company called Journey Films on YouTube, and yours truly, or at least a much younger, trimmer version of me, is actually in that video during the Oklahoma portion. So I'll link it down below, and also my short cameo is at around 1:11:49, I think, of that video. I think I get about 5 seconds of talking, and then they go on to the next video. But anyway, enough of that. All right, so that's the why. That's how I got motivated, and it sort of planted a seed in my head. That was the fall of 2006, and it planted a seed in my head for several months that just sometimes you have those things that get in your head, and you just, I keep asking myself, like, I'm not, obviously because of my job and my life situation, I wasn't going to be able to take 50 days to run 50 marathons, even if I, ran the same route every day. Well, maybe I could, I suppose, but anyway, I didn't. The job I was in, I did a lot of flying and things like that, and sometimes during the week I would have, just a crazy schedule. So I started thinking, well, what would be, maybe a more realistic goal? And I thought, well, could I do a marathon every month for about 8 months? So a little bit about my life situation at the time. I was in the Canadian Air Force. I served in the Canadian Air Force for almost 30 years, but I was there in Oklahoma City. I was stationed at Tinker Air Force Base just outside of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, from 2004 to 2008. So, very, very centrally located. If you look at a map of the US and see where Oklahoma City is, it's pretty hard to get much more centrally located than that. Also, there were many marathons not far away, through the fall and the spring, because, Oklahoma, Texas, a lot of those areas, and then to the south, in the summertime, the weather is just way too hot. So most of the marathons happen fall through spring. So I'm just going to check my notes here. So my tour down there was going to end in 2008. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to get this done, fall of 2007 to spring of 2008, that's the time to do it. Financially, fortunately, the Canadian government gave us money while we were down there, and like an extra bonus for the 4-year tour while we were down there, as kind of a holiday leave travel allowance. So that helped. I still had, I think, close to half of that left. So that helped cover, that basically covered all of my hotel rooms, and also, some of the gas money. So anyway, so what I did then was I thought, okay, well, let's take it another step further. Now, I wanted to be able as much as possible to drive. I drove to all these marathons that I ran. Some of them, it took me 2 days to get there, 2 days to get back. 2 of them I did while I was on a vacation. So that gave me more time to drive there and drive back. And then, so I went on Google and, started looking around at local marathons. And I was able to find, from September of 2007 through April of 2008, I was able to find a marathon a month. So as I'll talk about in a bit, some I think the shortest period of time I had between 2 marathons was 2 weeks. The longest I had was 6 weeks. And other than that, it was probably anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks in between marathons. But I wanted to do one in each calendar month, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm just going to run through quickly the marathons I did in order. So in September of 2007, I ran the United States Air Force Marathon. That was in Dayton, Ohio. That was a bit of a drive. It took me 2 days drive to get there, 2 days drive to come back. But it was the U.S. Air Force Marathon, and it was one that I really, really had wanted to do the whole time I was down there. So I thought, that's another big tick off the box to run the United States Air Force Marathon. The second one I ran was a small one called the Spirit of Survival Marathon. It was held in the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge just outside of Lawton, Oklahoma. So I think that was only a few hours drive from where I lived. I was actually, while I was living there, I lived in Norman, Oklahoma, which is at the very southern edge of the Oklahoma City Metroplex. Boomer Sooner. It's also where the University of Oklahoma is, college football central there, big time. The next one I ran was the Route 66 Marathon in Tulsa, Oklahoma in November of 2007, which I had run before. Then I ran in December of 2007 the Dallas White Rock Marathon in those days in Dallas, Texas. Then in January of 2008, I ran the Chevron Houston Marathon in Houston, Texas. In February of 2008, I ran the Breast Cancer Marathon in Jacksonville, Florida. Then in March of 2008, the Little Rock Marathon. April of 2008, the Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon, which obviously was like right in my backyard. I didn't have to drive, stay in a hotel for that one. So 3 of the marathons I had actually done before. The Tulsa Route 66 Marathon, the Little Rock Marathon, and the Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon. The other 5 marathons were all new to me. And I was really excited because, the Dallas Marathon and Houston Marathon especially, were, pretty big marathons. So I wanted to have that experience. I mean, the Houston Marathon was a lot bigger than probably any marathon that I might run here in Canada, at least with the total number of people. The Breast Cancer Marathon, it was actually the inaugural year, the year that I ran it in 2008. Had a bit of a personal connection. My mother, who sadly was taken by another form of cancer about 8.5 years ago. She was a breast cancer survivor at that time and was still alive. So I thought, that would be very touching personally for me and for her. So that was one of the reasons I did that. It was also one of the ones I did while I was on holiday. So, it was no problem to be able to drive all the way to Jacksonville, Florida, while I was on holidays. Okay, so I started planning, after doing all that research and finding 8 marathons that I could run. I started the planning in the spring of 2007. So first off, before I signed up for any of these things, I wanted to make sure I submitted my requests for leave or time off. Many of the ones that were fairly close, I often took, like the marathon would be on the Sunday and I would maybe take the Monday off, just either to allow myself, if the drive, like the 2 I did in Texas, I think I stayed in Dallas and in Houston that night and then drove back the next morning. And also maybe just to give myself a day to recover before going back to work. Fortunately, all my bosses, the job I had was pretty much a Monday to Friday job. And fortunately, all my bosses, both Canadian and American, were very, very supportive of my little challenge or my midlife crisis, whichever way you want to look at it. So that worked out very, very well. So because I once I had the time off secured, I was able to register for many of those races. And because most of them I was registering for quite early, I also saved some money there because I got early bird discount to secure my spot. I also booked, my hotels as early as possible. And used as many, tried to use as many military discounts as I could. I was also at the time, because I did a lot of traveling while I was in the military, I was also a Holiday Inn, Marriott and Sheraton club member. So I tried to stay at one of those if it was convenient to the sort of expo start line, or some of the bigger marathons had, hotels as they often do. So I tried, if it was a better deal, I tried to book in to one of those, because quite often those were close to the expo slash start line, finish line. Also, I was extremely blessed. There was a local running store that I had been going to since 2004 when I first got there, and I got pretty developed a really good relationship with the fellows that owned it. It was a small running store in Norman, Oklahoma, called the OK Runner. I think they expanded while I was there. They have another one in downtown Oklahoma City as well, but the OK Runner. They gave me a military discount, which I think was 10, maybe 15%. But anyway, any little money I could save. They gave me a military discount on shoes and Goose. I was using Goose as my fuel, because you can imagine when you're training 4 and then running 8 marathons, I went through quite a bit of Goose, and also I was harder on shoes. Okay, so that's hopefully kind of covers the why and the the kind of logistics and preparation. I will say that I was very, very lucky, and sometimes, as often happens in life, when you're taking on one of these types of challenges maybe that you haven't done before, or that's kind of off the charts kind of thing, luck and the support of great people who may not necessarily understand why I wanted to go do this, but they were very, very supportive of me, and that I will be forever grateful, because without their help things wouldn't have gone as well as they did. So yeah, so that's this video. That's kind of the why and my preparation. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And I'll be more than happy. I read and answer every comment. I appreciate you taking the time. I hope that if you're not subscribed, you'll consider subscribing, so that you'll and clicking the notification bell, so that you can follow along on this series. If you like the content of this video, please consider giving it a like. That's always very much appreciated. So as always, remember that no matter how big you are, how old you are, your shape, your size, how far you run, or how fast you run, if you run, you're a runner. So stay tuned for the next video in this series, where I'll be talking about how I physically and mentally trained myself to take on this challenge. I wish you all the best in your running adventures, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos. Take care.